This is KC Tunes and Brews. Local beer, local coffee, and local music. From the City of Fountains, I'm your host, Adam Bartling. All right, this is KC Tunes and Brews, and we are here in Blue Springs, Missouri on what seems to be maybe a hint of spring.
Yeah.
We're getting closer.
Getting a little taste.
Yeah, you can tell. Well, that sun coming out is beautiful, and I'm getting spring fever big time. But We're here on location with Ryan Triggs. You're kind of a perfect candidate for this podcast because you got everything going on that I want to talk about. So the biggest thing and the most cool thing to me is you are one of the three owners of Kansas Hop Company, and you told me right before we started. Can you remind me again where you guys...
We're in Ottawa, Kansas.
Kansas.
It's about an hour southwest of Kansas City, just right off I-35.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you drive there every day?
No, it's kind of a part-time hobby still at this point. During the growing season, they're probably 2 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week.
I gotcha.
So
then you you probably... I mean, I don't know anything about hop growing, but I assume you probably have to wait on things to do its own thing anyway, right?
Yeah, there's certain times of year that are super busy, like in April and May, or kind of getting everything going. You got to train all the plants, and then June and July they just kind of do their own thing, just keep up on fertilizer and checking for.
It's a really cool thing to me to think about, like the fact that you do that, because it's not, you think about beer and craft beer and stuff, but you don't, obviously you get the hops, but for me as a home brewer, for example, I just go to the store and it's already made, and they just have hops there. But it's cool, that you're growing them right there in Kansas. How'd you get into that? I mean,
okay, so my father-in-law, my wife, she comes from kind of farming background, and my father-in-law has been kind of kicking some ideas around about doing a specialty crop, and gave some freedom to myself and my brother-in-law to kind of come up with some ideas. So we were at KC Beer Co. back in 2015, just sitting out on the patio having some beers, and we kind of looked over, and they were just growing a few hops out of some whiskey barrels, just right there on the side of the building.
Okay.
And
nice.
I had never seen a hop plant in person. I've been drinking craft beer for a long time, but for me, just kind of a light bulb went off, and we were just like, oh, we should look into growing some hops. That's kind of how the research phase took off. So the rest is history then. That's right.
Yeah. So what was the first plant, or what was the first season like for you guys?
Okay, so
what year was it? Sorry.
Okay, so we started prepping the farm in 2015. Second half of 2015, kind of flagged out like the test plot. We just planted a half an acre to start out. So that was like beginning of 2016. We did 3 different varieties, Cascade, Centennial, and Chinook.
Okay.
Just kind of experimented with that.
How'd it go?
So the Centennial did not do very well. The Cascade did okay, and the Chinook did very well.
Is it region?
Yeah,
is that
it's
why?
all climate dependent and soil type and latitude dependent, because hops grow based on day length. So that's why, like Yakima Valley, Oregon, Washington, now like Michigan's huge. Anywhere on like the 45th parallel is like the ideal location. Our farm's at like between 38 and 39. So we don't get quite as much growth, but we're still kind of figuring out, the best way to achieve higher yields and things like that.
So can you just run through a process real quick? Like, and what times of years do you plant, and what time, what do you have to do to?
So hops come back, they'll grow for 20 years, 30 years. So you can either plant rhizomes, which is like a root cutting, or we've always done like little potted starter plants, little like pint-sized plants. We source from this place in Michigan. And you put in roughly 1,000 plants per acre. Every 3 feet, put a plant, and then those are in rows. Our rows are, I think, 400 feet, and then there's 400 feet long, and there's 14 feet between each row, so we can like drive a tractor or whatever down in between. So yeah, they start to emerge probably in late March, usually. Come out of the ground.
On their own, right?
On their own.
Kind of on their own.
Yep. And then we cut them back once or twice, depending on variety and how soon they come out, because you kind of want them to be uniform. You work backwards from your harvest date. So usually do a cutback like in April and another one the first part of May. And that way, because they just keep sending more shoots out. So we do that final cutback in May.
So it's kind of like, not to interrupt you, it kind of just starts going wild a little bit, and you have to make sure you have to keep it within
right, because like one plant might be 6 feet tall, and the one next to it will be a foot tall.
Right.
And you want to harvest this variety at the same time. So you try to kind of make sure they all start off fresh at the same time. And then once they're 3 or 4 feet tall, most people probably haven't seen a hop farm, but it's this massive trellis system where we have like telephone poles every 50 feet. There's all this airline cable running kind of in between. And then there's these strings that come down from the cable. It's made out of coconut coir. It's like a fiber from Sri Lanka. And then the hop plants, you just wrap them around that. Let's see, I guess it's clockwise. And then they just kind of will grow following the sun.
Cool.
Until they get to, the top of the trellis is like 18 feet. And then once they hit the top, they start throwing out sidearms for a couple weeks. And then the flowers, the cones themselves start pushing late June, early July.
So when is that around? Is that harvest time then?
Harvest time is usually beginning of August through first week or two of September, depending on variety. They all kind of mature at different times.
How do you know if you have a good harvest? Like, is it weighed in
it's by weight
measurement? Like pounds?
Yeah, so
or bushels?
Yeah, it's by pounds. I mean, on a commercial scale, like the farms that have hundreds of acres, it's by bales. Which a bale is 200 pounds of dried hops. So if they have like a 2,000 pound yield, they'll call that a 10 bale yield.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So do you guys, who do you sell to mostly? Commercial brewers or everyone? You got a storefront?
Yeah, it's mostly commercial brewers in all over the state of Kansas, and then also Kansas City, Missouri. I think we did 25 or so commercial brewers this year, and then also smaller amounts to home brewers. If home brewers approach us, we're happy to work with them. And a lot of those guys that we've been working with on the homebrew level have ended up scaling up into commercial breweries over the last few years.
You purchase off the website or something? Is that like if you're...
We usually do like pre-orders.
Pre-orders, yeah.
Yeah, we'll take pre-orders. We kind of guess what we're going to harvest. Usually in about June, we have a good idea of what our yields are going to be, and we'll start taking pre-orders. And then, we'll deliver all those early fall. If we have any left over, then we'll just kind of reach out to
see if anyone wants them. Yeah. So name some breweries here around locally that buy from you.
Okay, so like in Kansas City, Double Shift, Torn Label.
Oh, sweet.
We just delivered to Transport in Shawnee the other day. I'm trying to think of other in the Kansas City area. If you get a little further, we've done, like in Lawrence, Free State, we've done them, and Blind Tiger in Topeka. We've done Miami Creek, which is out south of Kansas City a little bit, down in Drexel. There's a lot of breweries around here, man. Every time I interview someone, I hear of these. Like right now, I'm hearing of things I haven't even heard of yet. Yeah, so especially it's pretty exciting. Like on the Kansas side, Johnson County is really blowing up right now.
Mm-hmm. I think.
Other than Brew Lab's been open, and Red Crow's getting ready to reopen next week, I saw. But yeah, there's like 6 or 7 in the construction phase in Johnson County right now. So that's awesome. Yeah. It's a growing, booming business. I think you're in the right the right field. So we got in on a good time, I think. Yeah, that's cool. So do you have an agriculture background or anything like that? No, I don't. So I'm partners in this business with my father-in-law, who's pretty much a lifetime farmer, mostly in like seed genetics and also corn and soybeans, row crops. And then my brother-in-law, he went to K-State, got a horticulture degree. Now he does landscape design. So I just kind of married into like the farming thing. Nice. That helps a lot, huh? Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. But I've learned so much, and I love farming. I love being out in the field and getting dirty, and just working outside is awesome. Yeah, that's cool. And agriculture, and then also getting to work with like in the beer industry. That's amazing. I don't know. I'm going to listen to this and know the answer, but I don't know if I mentioned your name in the beginning of this. But your name's Ryan Triggs. Ryan Triggs, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So, and you're with. There's 3 of you. You, your brother-in-law, and my father-in-law. And your father-in-law. Yeah, and cool. Brother-in-law Nick, father-in-law Clyde, and then we have tons of help from friends and family certain times a year. I bet that's cool. My dad Jim, who you'll see play later. He helps out a lot too. Whenever we need some extra hands.
Let's talk about the band a little bit. So
Okay.
we're here. I just want to let everyone know we're here at East 40 Brewing, and it's very loud. Hopefully, we can pull our voices out of this a little bit. It sounds all right, but it's a good thing when the brewery is loud. It's a Friday night. They got a stage over here in the corner, and later on we're gonna set up some stuff over there and capture some of the live, some of the of your performance.
Right.
What is your band name?
Okay, it's called the Kaw Valley Hop Pickers,
Nice.
which is kind of got inspired in Lawrence back in the 70s. There was like a counterculture group called the Kaw Valley Hemp Pickers, and they've always kind of been on my radar. And then once I started growing hops, I've been playing music my whole life, but I was just like, Kaw Valley Hop Pickers would be kind of a fun play on words with that. So
yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, we play like Americana, Bluegrass.
Kind of Bluegrass. I'm super excited to see some Bluegrass. And there's 4 of you in the band, correct?
Yeah, there's normally 5, but my brother-in-law Nick, him and his wife Catherine, he plays dobro, and they just had a baby like a couple of weeks ago.
Congratulations!
So, so he's at home, but we'll be playing again. We play at KC Beer Co. next month, so hopefully he'll be able to play at that gig.
Oh, sweet!
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So I'm excited to see the band go. Is the drummer the one missing? Percussionist?
He's drummer. We also have a country band. He plays drummer in a country band, but he plays dobro in this band.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, he's
cool.
super talented. Also plays guitar and ukulele and sings. And
cool.
So,
so let's talk. Let's see. Oh, you're also a solo musician, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of singer-songwriter type stuff.
Play around a lot then?
Yeah, I mean, I've got, I'm married with 3 kids, and I used to play out a lot. Now I play out maybe 2 or 3 times a month.
That's awesome.
So
I haven't even, as of this interview right now, I haven't heard a single thing from you. So it's like the anticipation is killing me.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what happens. Yeah. So you guys play gigs like this a lot?
Yeah, a lot of breweries, which has been awesome.
Yeah.
Being like a hop farmer and a musician, and love craft beer, it works out perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, I would say 2/3 of our shows are at breweries.
Really cool. I really appreciate, by the way, Ryan reached out to me, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I follow anybody involved in the industry, and I saw that you were doing a podcast about music and beer, and I was just like, oh, man, it's like my 2 favorite things.
Said. You're like the perfect candidate for it. So.
Yeah, I wanted to be a part of it, and I think it's cool what you're trying to do with it.
Cool, man. I appreciate it a lot. Yeah, hopefully we can keep it going and keep meeting. The thing about it has been, I had the idea, and now it's just kind of branching off. I just keep meeting new people, and that's like really fun. And, I find out things like the hop company. By the way, I got these stickers here. There's one of them. That's what it looks like. So if you're looking online, it's just KansasHopCompany.com, right?
Yeah, KansasHopCo.com.
Hopco.com.
Right. Yeah,
cool.
And we're on all social media.
That's awesome. So you started with the 3. How many are you growing now? Let's get back into the hops.
Okay, yeah. So we're probably like 10 to 12 different varieties.
Awesome.
Hops growing in this region it's kind of a new thing, so there's not like a track record of what grows the best here. Back in the Pacific Northwest, they have these huge research and extension departments at all the colleges that are trying to figure out, they are doing all the research, and then the growers just grow it. So we're having to do all that trial and error on our own.
Right.
But I think, it's hard to time harvest and training and all these different things with all these different varieties. So I think eventually, once we figure out what grows the best, we'll probably scale back down. Right now, we're kind of focusing on 4 or 5.
Yeah, cool.
Chinook, Cascade, Columbus, and Comet has grown really well for us.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah,
Comet,
so that's probably 90% of our field is those 4. We're growing 3.
Cascades a lot is one that goes. You see it in an IPA a lot, right?
Yeah, it's in like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Oh yeah,
so
nice.
It's kind of like a, like a legacy hop. It's very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
It can go in tons of different beer styles.
It's fun. Since I got into home brewing, it's fun learning about what I'm actually tasting.
Yeah.
Because when I first started drinking craft beer, you don't really know what you're even tasting, but.
Yep.
It's some of the, in the beginning of when I started the podcast, I don't know if Rodney Beagle.
Yeah.
So he was talking about how the palate evolves.
Right.
And I didn't really understand what that means, but then that kind of stuck in my mind, and I kind of know what everyone's talking about with that now. You can almost taste, and I think the more that time goes on, anyone involved will be able to really can really tell what they're tasting and what
right.
You know what I mean? It's just fun.
I mean, you kind of educate yourself over time too, just in trying different kinds of beer, and it helps. A lot of breweries now have these tasting notes, so you may have before smelled or taste something and you were like, oh, okay, I'm getting that, but I don't know what it is. And then now they kind of guide you a little bit, and then next time, you're like, oh yeah, I know what I'm picking up or whatever.
Right.
So.
Yep. That's where the whole the judges in craft brew, homebrew competitions.
Yeah.
Those guys are really keying in on all that stuff. It's really impressive. So.
Yeah.
I had a question pop in my mind.
Yep.
How do you know if I guess explain your quality control.
Yeah, so
you have to throw some out at some point, probably.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different things that go into it. As far as when to harvest is really crucial. Inside of a hop cone is what they're called lupulin glands. It's these little tiny balls, and that's where all the essential oils and acids that give beer bitterness and aroma. Right. Those are all in those lupulin glands. So. You can there's a bunch of different ways to tell. You can, feel them, you can smell them, you can rub them in your hands. Just by looking at the color of the cones, that kind of gives you an idea.
You can probably definitely tell when they're not colored correctly, right?
Right, yeah. So they start off really light green, the cones themselves, and they kind of darken. The tips start to get a little brown. That's kind of when you know that they're almost ready to harvest. But then when you crack them open, on the inside is those lupulin glands, and they start out flat. But then eventually they fill up with those oils and they, become spherical. And that's kind of when okay, it's about go time. And then we send our hops to a lab because you need to know moisture content. Mm-hmm. You want to pick them when they're about 78% moisture content by weight.
Okay.
So
anything more is too dry. Essentially, right?
Yeah. So just for picking.
For picking,
yeah.
Okay.
So we send them to a lab in Nebraska, get that tested. It also tells our alphas, betas, all that storage, hop storage index. So each hop has a range of alpha acids, beta acids, where it's within range. So there's a bunch of different things that go into it, but those are the kind of the things that we look for as far as when to harvest. But then from quality, from there, how long to dry, because you dry them down to 8% to 10% moisture content. So you dry them way down from 78 down to roughly 10.
Special dryer or something.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so on a commercial scale, they have these huge kilns that are the size of a football field, and they're pumping heat in there. We don't use any heat. It's hot enough here in the summertime. Right. So we just use a commercial, kind of a large grain bin fan, and then the commercial dehumidifier to help suck that moisture out. It takes 24 to 36 hours. And by not using heat, that kind of helps keep all those oils in there because they can burn off over a certain temperature. So that's, the biggest things for quality for us is when to harvest and making sure we're nailing that drying moisture content when we're finished drying.
Yeah, cool. So you guys sell hop leaves and pellets and what how's it go out?
We do fresh wet whole cone hops. A lot of guys around here, breweries haven't been able to do fresh wet hopped beers because they haven't had the supply.
Right.
So now that we, because you can ship them in, but it's not cost effective to ship 200 pounds of hops overnight from Washington or whatever. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
We've done a lot of wet hop beers. So basically we pick them. They pick them up that day, and then they're in a batch less than 24 hours later. So you get a lot of, it's kind of green, grassy chlorophyll, but it's so fresh. You can't get that out of a hot pellet or a whole leaf that's dried. I mean, just really fresh flavors. And
that's really cool.
It's really cool to be able to pick them, and then that same day they're in the kettle. So we do that, and then we also do whole leaf or pellets. We have processing for that on our farm.
Cool.
So,
do you know of any specific beer or recipe that was done that way from a brewery?
With the wet hops?
With the fresh hops.
Yeah. So this year, Double Shift did one. They do one every year called King's Vine IPA.
King's Vine.
King's Vine, and they used this year. I'm trying to think. They used some cashmere, which we grow a little bit of cashmere, which is a really awesome lemony hop. And then they use some of our Chinook, which we call Canuck because it's really different grown here. Normally Chinook is like piney, really resiny, and grown here in the Midwest, it has a lot of like grapefruit, pineapple, mango, passion fruit.
Does it change with the humidity?
I don't know if it's the soil or the climate. Yeah, it's probably the soil more than anything.
Yeah.
Here our soils are pretty heavy clay soil compared to like the Yakima Valley is kind of like a silty. It's almost like volcanic ash.
Right.
Yeah, so just completely different growing conditions. They're almost in like a high desert there, and it's super humid here. So all those things play a factor.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So besides narrowing down and finding the ones that are the best for you, obviously that's one future goal. What other goals do you have for the company? I mean, obviously to grow. But
yeah, I mean, I'd like us. Eventually, I'd love to do it as a full-time job if it ever gets to that point. We need to kind of figure out, like, get our yields per acre up, and it takes a hop plant 4 to 5 years to mature.
Yeah.
So, we're going into our 4th growing season. So after this year, we'll have a pretty good idea of, is it worthwhile to expand from 3 acres up to 15 or 20 acres? Also, is the demand going to be there? But yeah, I mean,
do you think it will?
I think so.
I think it will.
Yeah, I mean, we've been very fortunate. Like this year, I think we sold out of our hops in January. So
that's awesome.
We finished harvest in September, so over 3 months.
Yeah.
Everything was spoken for, which is a good feeling. And there's, like you said earlier, there's a new brewery opening almost every week in this area. I think there's been some closures, like in Portland and Seattle, where there might be an overabundance of breweries, but I think there's still a room here for tons more, like places like this, East 40, neighborhood tap room kind of brewery. Not worried about like a huge distro footprint or anything like that.
This is all they have in Blue Springs. Is that correct? Blue Springs is this is the only brewery in town, right?
I think so for now. Yeah. But right around here, there's a bunch. Like New Cement and Independence.
We just moved to Independence a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything open. Now there's 2.
Right.
So that went quick.
3 Trails and
Apex.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think every little neighborhood could support, a brewery on the corner.
I know
it's kind of a community vibe and live music and pizza and
right. Nice chill place you can go all day long, really.
Yeah.
So let's see. What questions have I not asked you that you'd like to touch? Like, I think it's really interesting learning about the hops. So I think anyone listening would be.
I just think it's the next step. People are super into hyper-local food and drinks right now, and then where the actual ingredients for those items is coming from. The brewers are all about it, and they've done a good job of promoting, hey, this beer uses hops from Kansas Hop Company, and I think especially down, closer to where our farm is, there's a sense of pride there. Like, hey, these guys that we see at the grocery store or that we, drink beer with or whatever, they're helping supply.
I know when you reached out to me and you said you owned the hop company, I was like, whoa, I'm actually going to talk to this guy that's growing hops. It's really cool. And that's probably that sense of pride you're talking about. I mean, it feels like behind the scenes almost,
Right.
Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it just adds another level to local food or local drinks, I mean, and I think I've been really happy with, the beers that people have been making. I was skeptical at first, like, hey, we're going to grow these hops. Yeah. They might be terrible. I have no idea. And to be able to hand them over to breweries in Kansas and Missouri and see what they've done with them, and I bet it was a major sense of pride the first time you tasted a beer made with your hops, right? Yeah. It was kind of nerve-wracking, you know, and especially the first year, pretty much everything we did was like wet, fresh hop beers, because we handpicked, we didn't have like a harvesting machine or anything, so we didn't have any processing equipment, and in this part of the country, I didn't have a palate for those styles of beers.
Right.
And so I didn't and I was super critical of myself. Naturally, you're like, but talking to the brewers who have had those styles of beers before, they're like, oh, this is great, and just for them to have access to another local ingredient is awesome, and the whole like local barley and malt thing is kind of starting to take off a little bit too. So
I would love as a home brewer to make something where it's totally. So I made a wheat beer. My grandpa out in Nebraska, they harvest wheat every year, and so my dad did this whole process of wheat. So I made some wheat beers with that, and that felt really cool because it was the wheat from there. But it'd be so cool to combine it with like your hops or something, and then if there was a yeast company nearby, that would be the best time ever.
And I've talked to some brewers about coming down to our farm and trying to like harvest some wild yeast.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, so hopefully later this year that'll kind of start to take off. Cause
that's another process I don't understand at all.
Yeah, me neither. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But we've got fruit trees and we've got honeybees down there, and you can capture yeast almost off of anything that's living. So we should get some cool,
that would be
kind
cool.
of funky, wild stuff going on.
So have you done any home brewing?
Not really. No, I've never been. I mean, I've got a lot of buddies that are home brewers, and now, a lot of friends that are commercial brewers, and I've been a part of a lot of brew days and things like that. But other than going to like Brew Lab in Overland Park, which is kind of I don't know if you're familiar with that at all.
Nope.
It started out as like it's a homebrew shop, but it's also, they have like a little maybe two barrel system or something, and you can like get together with a group of buddies and like rent it out. And they have a guy there that kind of walks you through, all the ingredients and the whole brewing process. So that's my
spend a day making a beer, collabing with people. That's amazing.
And then you come back a few weeks later and you bottle it and then take it home. It's a really cool experience.
I want to do that.
For people that are like thinking about getting into home brewing, it's a good way to like get your feet wet before buying all the equipment, and you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. Exactly.
See like if you can do it or not.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty easy. I think they've figured out over the years probably how they can make directions that you can follow easily. I mean, you can just look up a recipe online and I mean, it's not that easy, but you know what I mean.
There's some trial and error, and you can mess it up pretty easy, but
you can mess it up. But if you follow the instructions, someone's figured it out for you. So
and there's so many awesome like homebrew clubs now. Where you can go and get tips, and
for sure, Facebook groups of brewers and all kinds of stuff like that. So
the whole like home brewing and just craft beer community in general is very like helpful and inclusive, and we'll answer any questions and always like invite you. Hey, why don't you come over? I'll show you, kind of my setup and how I do things. And
that's my experience with it since I've been doing it. It's like it's awesome. So. It's very similar to music, I think. Like if you're in bands or whatever, and you know how that goes because you played a lot of shows. You meet other musicians all the time, and everyone's welcoming for the most part. There's always that one guy, but they go hand in hand. And I've always been, my background's more music, of course, but it's amazing to me how the craft brew community is very similar. So it's really fun. So, what are you drinking there, by the way?
I got the quarter pale ale.
Nice. Okay, I saw that one.
Yeah. So I'm not sure of all the details, but they have some kind of charitable donation with certain beer every month or something. So a portion of this goes to, I'm not sure which charity. I'll have to look it up later.
Yeah, we'll look it up. Yeah, it's cool. That's another thing I like about breweries. They're always doing stuff like that too.
Yep.
So
it's super community vibe, and always trying to help people out. And,
well, we got. Let's see. We're shooting for an hour here, right? So we can leave some time open for the band.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're going to be playing here for 3 hours tonight.
Yeah,
so,
8 to 11.
Yeah, we'll capture some of that too. So
okay.
Man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, Adam.
Thanks a lot for reaching out to me, having me come out here. This is awesome.
This is great. I appreciate what you're doing, and hopefully, like you said, it'll continue to grow. And once all this is ready to go, we'll definitely blast it out on everything. And
thanks. Let's spread the word.
Do some cross promotion.
All it is exactly what we talked about. Just trying to get people, just to communicate and talk about it and have fun with it. Really. So
I mean, there's a huge culture with craft beer, and people just kind of jump in head first. And
I found there are haters of craft beer too now.
Oh yeah.
Big time, and I think it's just. I mean, I've been around craft beer for a while, so it's one of those things that you become too cool for it. It's like you're sick of it, kind of thing. I suppose.
That's okay.
Ready for the next thing.
I mean, if you're not into it, that's fine.
That's not me.
People
though.
Don't push it on you.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a really chill, kind of great, laid back group of people.
Definitely, and it's definitely. Catching more attention nationwide.
Oh yeah,
you can go anywhere almost now, and you find one brewery at least to go to. So
it's usually the first thing I do when I know I'm going on a trip.
Me too.
Just look at the map, hey, here's where I'm staying.
Yep.
What breweries are close?
Yep.
I
like checking out different breweries in different cities. It's
it's one
thing on the must do for every trip for me too. So Ryan Triggs, Kansas Hop Company. Tell me the website one more time.
It's Kansas Hop Co, as in co.com. And then we're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Probably most active on Instagram, but try to keep up on the other two as well.
Cool. Yeah, so you probably get on the Instagram and watch the harvest process a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We'll be posting everything. Things will really start ramping up here in a couple weeks, and then all the way through September. So for
awesome.
About 5 or 6 months, yeah.
I'll definitely. I don't know if I'm following you yet, but I will be. So
yeah, check it out.
It'll be fun to watch. So, all right, and then tell me your band name one more time.
It's the Kaw Valley Hop Pickers.
All right, so that's what's going to be next here on the podcast. So, I appreciate it, man.
Yep. Thanks, Adam.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
hands along the baby. We're going to try a little original tune for you. This is called I Can't Love You Anymore. We're doing it bluegrass speed? Yeah. Okay. Alright. You boys ready? Yeah. Why'd you have to go and do me like that? Baby, that wasn't cool. I'm tired of playing games. I'm tired of playing the fool. If you think that you can go behind my back, you must be out of your damn mind. I know I ain't got perfect vision. Girl, my heart is blind. So I can't love you anymore, baby. You've been doing me wrong. No, I can't love you anymore, baby. I am already gone, gone, gone. Packed up my bags, ready to walk down that door. I ain't never coming back, baby. That's a fact. I can't love you anymore. Can't believe they're asking me to take you back. Girl, get off of your knees. No, but you ain't getting nowhere. Crying and begging me, please, please. There's a million other women in this world who know how to treat a man. So I'm leaving you for good now. I hope someday you'll understand. I can't love you anymore, baby. Cause you've been doing me wrong. No, I can't love you anymore, baby. I am already gone, gone, gone. Back to my bags, ready to walk down that door. I ain't never coming back, baby. That's a fact. I can't love you anymore. I can't love you anymore, baby. 'Cause you've been doing me wrong. No, I can't love you anymore, baby. I am already gone, gone, gone. Packed up my bags, ready to walk down that door. I ain't never coming back, baby. That's a fact. I can't love you anymore. I ain't never coming back, baby. That's a fact that I can't love you anymore. Thank you, now. For those just getting here, we are the Kaw Valley Hop Pickers. Happy to be back here at East 40.
James River Blues. I just heard the awful news. You can see the flow.
They got flow.
On down,
Flow on down.
down Richmond.
Down Richmond town.
They don't need us anymore. Holler Fred from show to show. That we got hollers
More than we ever did before. James River Blues. James River Blues. James River Blues. James River Blues.
Thank you.
The Old Crow Medicine Show song. We're gonna do two more, then take a quick break. We got two more long sets of music. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. This next one is a Towns Van Zandt. It's called the White Freightliner Blues. Feature the 5-string banjo on this one.
Starting to sing, right? You just going down right into it? Okay. Yep.
Going out on that highway, let's do them big trucks wind. Going called Thank God They Still Play Country Down in Texas. Real quick while he's switching things out, I want to introduce the boys. We got Dustin Gill on piano and vocals to my right. We got Dan Perez on the doghouse bass. We got JT on banjo and now on fiddle. My name's Ryan Triggs. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Thank God they still play country down in Texas. Then Houston, Austin, San Antonio, got music that I crave. Not sure what they do down in Nashville. Oh, bet they sing this turn is great. You can walk in any honky tonk and down. I guarantee you gon' see twin pillows all in the way. When you hear that pedal steel, you know that the band's for me. Let that Bible music just take your mind away. Thank God they still play country down in Texas. When Houston, Austin, San Antonio, got music that I crave. Not sure what they do down in Nashville. Oh, better sing this song. It's great. But I took it from the stockyards to El Paso. And I drink my share of Shiner beer and Lone Star along the way. If the man's playing a cowboy song, you know what I'm saying, all night long. But let the sound of the tumbling tumbleweed take my mind away. Thank God we still play country now in Texas. Well, in Houston, Austin, San Antonio,